Howdy YouTube, Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. Yes, I'm still suffering from the head cold, but it's moved into my chest. I spent all night last night coughing. We tried to make it, well, we did make it through a movie, but last night was movie night. We had a lot of fun. But anyway, I digress. This video today, I want to continue on with our ESXI and our VMware install. We're trying to get this server behind me here all set up and running VMware. I did a video on installing ESXI. I did a video on doing an iSCSI share with my Synology NAS, and today we're going to install vSphere Vcenter 6.7. Now, in the previous two videos, I made the observation that this Dell and the processors in this Dell, in fact all of my Dells, are not on the compatibility list for VMware, but for some reason they run anyway. But you know, from what I hear in the comments section, that's a pretty common thing. VMware deprecates CPUs, says they won't work, but it simply means they're not supported. So if you were to put them into a production environment, which I would not recommend, they're not going to be supported. But this is mainly a proof of concept. We're doing this in the lab. It's no big deal. And I can, when push comes to shove, upgrade those processors on those Dells if I need to. Now, I have priced the next unit above the Dell R710, and they are way out of my price range, so I'll be sticking with these Dells for a while. We'll just make them work. So, again, today we're going to install VMware vCenter. It is not for the faint of heart. It is, there are quite a few steps involved, and make sure if you install it, you have plenty of resources, i.e. RAM, to give to vCenter. I don't even know that I need vCenter, but I want to load it on there and have it available to me just in case moving forward I decide to do something with it. So let's get the video started. Keep in mind, I'm going to be starting from the assumption you know what I'm doing. You know that I'm installing vCenter. So if I don't make that clear in the video, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about vSphere vCenter, and tell you what I think about it. All right, so now it's time to get the actual installation done. So you're going to need the VMware VCSA-all-6.7.0-102.44.745.ISO. Well, that's a cotton picking mouthful, isn't it? And look, I have the new dark theme for Windows Explorer. Isn't it cool? No, not really. All you do is I've copied it onto a local hard drive, onto my D drive, and I'm just going to right click and I'm going to mount. And then there is a command line installer, and there is a user interface, or a GUI installer, and we're going to use the GUI. So I just double click on that, go into the Win32 folder, and then down here is an installer file that I will run. Now, that being said, there are certain things you need to do before you run this install. Now, I've already done them. So I'm going to go ahead and do the install, and I'll tell you what these things are that you're going to need to do as we go along. So I'm just going to do stage 1, deploy the appliance. Next, accept the terms of the license agreement. I'm going to use the embedded platform services controller, so it's all in one. Now, what they want to know is the name of my ESXI host. Now, I've done this install before, and even though I have my DNS, you're going to need to have a DNS server, and you're going to need to have your IP addresses properly mapped to the fully qualified domain name you're using. I'm not going to cover that in this video. You should just be able to do it if you know how to set up your DNS. However, I have had this fail before if I use the fully qualified domain name. So what I'm going to use is the actual IP address of my ESXI host, and that is 192.168.5.6. And then you're going to need to enter your username, which is root, and your super secret password. Click on next, and you'll know you were successful if you get a certificate warning. We're going to go ahead and tell it to yes, accept that certificate. Now, I'm just going to leave the default name VMware gives to the vCenter server appliance.
you can set that to be whatever you want. And I'm going to use the same password, super secret password I use for the root. You typically shouldn't do that, but we're in a lab environment, so it really doesn't matter. Enter that, click on next. And then I'm just going to choose the tiny deployment and the default storage size. I'm going to install it on the ESXI Dell. This is the iSCSI store that we created in our Synology NAS in our previous video. And I'm also going to make sure I enable thin disk mode. That way your hard drives will dynamically expand as it needs space. So click on next. Now this is where you have to make sure you've got everything set right. So the fully qualified domain name of my machine is going to be vcsa67.mcs.local. Okay, you need to make sure you have that set up. You have your IP address set up properly in your DNS, and the IP address this machine is going to be is 5.15. So make sure on your DNS server you have both a regular pointer pointing to this DNS name, pointing to that IP, and you have a reverse lookup. If you don't have those, this is not going to work. And I've covered that in other videos. So we enter our default gateway now. And pardon me, I'm having to look around a keyboard to make this happen. So, and then I'm going to put my internal Active Directory DNS server in there. We're going to go ahead and click on next. So here's a summary. It's ready to go ahead and complete stage 1. Let me rearrange some stuff on my desktop here, because you're going to want to see this as it creates it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on finish, and we're going to let this run. And you can see now it's incremented. We actually have a virtual machine back here as it creates the virtual machine. So I'm going to be quiet and we'll let this run. Now, don't worry, when it gets to 80%, this process can take about 3 to 5 minutes to complete. So don't freak out and think that your machine is locked up. However, I will tell you from experience to make sure that you have the most current version of both ESXI and your vSphere installer ISO. They should be no older than 364 days. Otherwise, VMware is time bombed and you will get the dreaded stuck on 80% installing, and it will never complete and probably won't give you an error message. So just be aware of that. We've covered that before in a previous VMware vSphere install where my subscribers stepped up and helped me out to get past this. And Sakura is one of the guys that helped me figure out what was causing the problem previously with my VMware vSphere install. So don't panic. Like I say, if it sits here for 3 to 5 minutes, just be patient and it will move on. So we are making progress. Now this is phase 1 of the install. There is a second phase. So, but we'll go ahead and let this phase quit or finish, and then I'll come back when we get to phase 2. But this is indeed a good sign that it is copying the Red Hat packages over to the new server it created, or the new virtual server that it created. Alright, so stage 1 has completed. All told, that took 10-15 minutes maybe. Now we're going to move on to stage 2. So I'm going to go ahead and click on continue. Now while we're waiting for that to happen, let's come over to our host and go down. Here's the VMware Vcenter server. And if you look at this, it is giving it 2 virtual CPUs, 10 gig of RAM, and you can see the RAM is increasing. And it's giving it 13 flippin' hard drives. Don't ask me why it can't put everything in one drive in multiple partitions, but being VMware, it can do whatever the hell it wants. So let's come back in here and let's go through stage 2. All right, so let's continue on with stage 2. So we'll click on next. Now this is why in the previous video I went out and made sure we had our NTP server set up. So I'm going to make sure we synchronize time with the ESXI host, and I like to enable SSH so that I can use PuTTY and get into the command line if need be. So I enable it. You do what you want. I'm going to click on next, and then we're going to do our single sign-on configuration. I'm just going to use the vsphere.local. I could have done vsphere.mcs.local, but we'll just leave it at that. My single sign-on username is going to be an administrator, and then I'm going to enter my super secret password. And you have to meet complexity requirements, so keep that in mind. Enter that, click on next. Now you can choose whether you want to join VMware's Customer Experience Improvement Program. I am not at this time. I'm just going to click on next, and you'll see that it's ready to complete. So we've got the host name in there, the IP address, gateway DNS, time synchronization is set. We've set our single sign-on domain, vsphere.local, username administrator, and we opted out of the CEIP settings. So let's click on finish. And it's warning you, this is a one-shot deal, so if this doesn't work, we're going to have to restart from scratch. And I have had to do that in the past, but I'm pretty confident this one's going to work. So we'll go ahead and click on OK. Now that is very dependent on your making sure you have your DNS set up properly. So if this fails, first thing you want to check is you have your IP addresses and your DNS settings set up correctly. So we'll let this run. Alright, so if you see here we have a link to our getting started page, and it says we have successfully set up this appliance. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and then we will come to, it opens a new screen, so we'll come to it, and we'll go to advanced and proceed, and I'm going to use the HTML5 client, and let's see if we can log in. Now we need to remember this is administrator. Get that out of there. So it's administrator at vsphere.local. That's our single sign-on domain, and then our super secret password. Click login. And hopefully if we've done our job right, we will see the vSphere pop up here eventually. Or not. And you can see what I mean by slow. Now, of course, this is the first time we've signed on, but let's see what this virtual machine's doing in the background. So you'll see we got a warning status, don't know why. It's consuming 1.8 gig of memory right now. Just keep an eye on it. Still not logged in. And eventually we will be presented with the VMware screen, the vSphere client. So let's come over here to summary, and you can see that we got a CPU exhaustion. I have no idea what that means. And VMware VAPI endpoint service health alarm. We'll figure out what those are later. But for the most part, we have vSphere up and running. So let's go back to the ESXI host, and you can see that the CPU being consumed and the memory being consumed. And trust me, it will start consuming more and more memory as time goes on. But there's our Vcenter is set up. I could create a new data center, and then within that data center I can then add a host. So we'll enter the IP. Actually, let's enter the domain name, ESXI-Dell, just to make sure it finds it. And our username, which is root, and our super secret password. Click on next. Ooh, and it can't find it. So let's just try using the IP address. 6 should be the IP. And let's see if it logs in. Yes, so there we go. It sees it as a Dell PowerEdge. It sees that it's running ESXi build 8169922. It also sees there's a VMware vCenter server appliance on there. We'll click on next. We're just using an evaluation license, so we'll accept that. And we'll leave the lockdown mode disabled. VM locations in the data center. Ready to complete. Click on finish. And then we should see down here a status indicator. Okay, and now let's go, and then we can see our VMware ESXi running 6.7. And there you go.
Alright, so we're all done. We got it up and running, and let me tell you from experience, that was a whole lot easier than version 6.5. But I did come to discover the reason I was having trouble with 6.5 is because VMware, when they release these images for appliances, they have a 1-year window which these appliances, the root password will work on them, and then after that it's time bombed and they expire. At least that's what I'm told. So if you're having trouble installing 6.5 of either of these products, then perhaps your version is older than a year. Check the date on it and get a newer version. I have joined the VMUG users group. It costs like $200 a year, and you get licenses to use in a non-production, only for a lab, only for testing environment. You can't run it in your business. I don't run it in my business. I strictly use it for a testing environment, so keep that in mind. But I think it's $200 well spent if you want to get into the vSphere and VMware product lines. You can pretty much do the same thing with VMware Workstation. It's not quite as powerful as ESXi, but you know, if you're just getting started, consider VMware Workstation as well. That is an alternative for you. You can create VMs in there, and that gives you a lot more options than Windows Hyper-V does, or that VirtualBox does. So just keep that in mind. And again, this was not a soup to nuts tutorial. I didn't go into any of the features of vSphere because I don't know enough about it to be teaching you something about it. So it is up and running. It's there for me to use in the future. Whether I use it moving forward, I don't know. I only spin up that VM when I specifically need to do something with vSphere or vCenter. So there you go. We hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below. Leave your comments in the comment section. And if you're so inclined to donate, we take PayPal and we take Patreon. And the goal by the end of the year is hopefully to get to 5,000 subs. We're almost there. And so tell anybody you know about this channel who might be interested in it, and send them our way. It'll be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to come back and see us again. We got some more exciting videos coming up. We have we're going to be doing some Windows Server 2019 videos. We're going to do a lab on that. We're going to be playing around some more with Exponology. We got lots of stuff planned, so don't be shy and come back and see us again. And don't forget, please, that we will see you on the other side.